Imagine driving a road you have driven 1,000 times before. You know every bend, every junction, every traffic light. And then, out of nowhere, flashing blue lights appear in your mirror. You pull over, confused. You have not been speeding, you have not jumped a red light, but the officer walks to your window and tells you that you are not legally allowed to be behind that wheel anymore. Not because you did anything wrong today, because of something you failed to do months ago. Something quiet. Something most drivers over 60 do not even know they are supposed to check. This is not a hypothetical. This is happening right now across the UK, and the DVLA has changed the rules in a way that is catching thousands of older drivers completely off guard. If you are over 60, or if someone you love is, you need to watch every second of this, because what you are about to hear could save your license, your insurance, and potentially your life. Let us start with the fundamental thing most people get wrong. In the UK, your driving license does not automatically stay valid forever just because you passed your test decades ago. Most people know that at 70 you have to renew your license. That is not new. What is new, and what the DVLA has been quietly tightening the rules around, is everything that happens between 60 and 70. Because it turns out that decade is where the system has the most gaps, and where drivers are most at risk of unknowingly becoming illegal on the road. Here is something that shocks people when they first hear it. If you are over 60 and you have a medical condition that affects your ability to drive safely, you are legally required to report it to the DVLA. Not to your GP, not to your optician, directly to the DVLA. And if you do not, and you are stopped by police or you are involved in an incident, you can face a fine of up to £1,000, your insurance can be declared void, and you can be prosecuted for driving without a valid licence. None of that is new law, strictly speaking, but the enforcement of it and the awareness campaign around it has intensified significantly. Police forces across the country have been given clearer guidance on when to question whether a driver is medically fit, and the DVLA has updated its internal systems to cross-reference GP records and hospital data more rigorously than ever before. So, what conditions are we actually talking about? This is where people get surprised, because the list is far longer than most drivers expect. Epilepsy is on there. So is diabetes, particularly if you are insulin dependent. Sleep apnea is on there, and this one catches a huge number of people because it is often undiagnosed for years. If you have had a stroke or a TIA, that is a mini stroke, you must stop driving immediately and inform the DVLA. Heart conditions, including certain arrhythmias, Parkinson's disease, dementia in any form, glaucoma, even certain medications that impair your ability to react quickly. The list runs to over 140 separate conditions, and the DVLA keeps adding to it. And here is the part that really matters. You do not have to feel unsafe to be legally required to report. The law does not ask you whether you think you are fine to drive. It asks whether you have been diagnosed with a condition that falls under the notification requirement. Your personal confidence behind the wheel is completely irrelevant. A man who has driven lorries for 40 years and feels perfectly capable can still be committing a criminal offence by not reporting a recent diagnosis of sleep apnea to the DVLA. That is the shift people are not grasping. Now let us talk about the eyesight rule, because this is the one that is catching the most people in 2024 and into 2025. The legal requirement for vision in the UK states that you must be able to read a number plate from 20 metres away. That is approximately 67 feet. You can wear glasses or contact lenses to achieve this. But the key thing is, there is no automatic test to check this once you have passed your initial driving test. Nobody sends you a reminder, nobody books you in for a mandatory check at 65. It is entirely on you to know whether your eyesight still meets the legal standard. The DVLA has now been working more closely with opticians to encourage reporting when a patient's vision falls below the legal driving threshold. Opticians are not yet legally obligated to report you themselves, although that conversation is happening at a policy level. But they are being strongly encouraged to make sure patients understand that driving with substandard vision is illegal, and many are now issuing written notifications to patients, which creates a paper trail. If you then continue driving and are involved in an accident, that paper trail can be used against you in court. Police officers also have the power to require you to read a number plate at the roadside at any time during a stop. If you cannot do it, even with your glasses on, you can be reported for driving with defective eyesight. Your vehicle can be seized in serious cases, and you face a fine and points on your license. Officers are being trained to be more observant about signs of potential vision impairment during routine stops, particularly with older drivers. Things like driving unusually slowly, missing road signs, or showing uncertainty at junctions can all prompt an officer to conduct an eyesight check on the spot. So, what should someone over 60 actually do right now? Let us be very practical about this. First, book an eye test if you have not had one in the last 2 years. Do not wait until you notice a problem. Vision loss is often gradual, and people adapt to it without realizing how much their sight has declined. A professional optician will tell you clearly whether your vision meets the legal driving standard. If it does not, you need to either get corrective lenses, or, if correction is not possible, consider whether you should be driving at all. Second, go through the DVLA's list of notifiable medical conditions. You can find this on the .gov website under the section titled Medical Conditions, Disabilities and Driving. Read it properly, not just skim it. Because many people are sitting on diagnoses they received years ago, perhaps told by a GP that they were fine to carry on driving, without realizing that the formal notification to the DVLA is a separate legal requirement that the GP cannot fulfill on their behalf. Third, if you take regular medication, check whether any of it is on the list of drugs that can impair driving. This includes some antihistamines, certain antidepressants, strong painkillers, and even some blood pressure medications. The DVLA and the NHS both publish guidance on this. If your medication is on the list, it does not necessarily mean you cannot drive, but it does mean you need to have a documented conversation with your doctor about fitness to drive, and in some cases, you may need to notify the DVLA. Fourth, if you are approaching 70, make sure you renew your license on time. The DVLA sends a reminder approximately 90 days before your 70th birthday, but people miss them. Driving with an expired license after 70 is also an offence. Now, let us talk about something that is more sensitive but equally important: families. One of the most difficult conversations in any family is when an elderly relative starts showing signs that they may no longer be safe to drive. There is enormous emotional weight attached to driving, especially for older people who live rurally or who associate the car with independence and dignity. But the law does not make exceptions for emotional difficulty. If you have a family member over 60 who you believe may have a medical condition that impairs their driving and who has not reported it to the DVLA, you are not legally obligated to report them yourself. However, you can contact the DVLA and provide information in confidence. The DVLA will then investigate, typically by writing to the individual and to their GP. This process is called a DVLA medical investigation, and it results in either a confirmation that the person is fit to drive, a requirement for further medical tests, or the revocation of the license. This might feel like a betrayal, but consider the alternative. An unfit driver is not only a risk to themselves. Every time they get behind the wheel, they are a risk to every other person on that road. Pedestrians, cyclists, other drivers, children crossing the street. The emotional discomfort of having that conversation within your family does not outweigh the responsibility. There is also the insurance angle, which people consistently underestimate. If you have a notifiable condition and you have not told the DVLA, your car insurance is almost certainly invalid. Insurance policies in the UK require you to be legally entitled to drive. If you are not, because you have failed to notify the DVLA of a medical condition, then the insurer can and regularly does refuse to pay out on claims. This applies not just to accidents you cause, but to accidents where someone else hits you. If your license is found to be invalid at the time of the collision, your insurer may walk away entirely. That leaves you personally liable for damage to your vehicle, damage to other vehicles, medical costs, and potentially legal action from the other party. The financial consequences can be catastrophic, far beyond any fine the DVLA itself might issue. People have lost their homes over this. That is not an exaggeration. The broader message here is that the DVLA is moving toward a more proactive model of license management. The days of passing your test at 17 and assuming it is valid until you decide otherwise are over for older drivers. The system is getting smarter. Data is being shared more widely between healthcare and licensing authorities, and police forces are being trained and empowered to challenge drivers they have reason to believe may not be legally or medically fit. If you are over 60 and you are watching this, please do not take this as an attack on your capability or your independence. The vast majority of drivers in their 60s and beyond are safe, experienced, and competent. But the rules exist for everyone, and the consequences of ignoring them fall hardest on the person who ignored them. Take 30 minutes this week. Check your vision. Review the notifiable conditions list. Talk to your GP if you have any doubt at all. And if you do have a condition that should have been reported and has not been, report it now. Late notification is treated far more favourably than never notifying at all. The DVLA does not want to take licences away. They want drivers to be safe and legal. Working with the system is always better than being caught out by it, because the alternative, being stopped at the roadside, having your license questioned, potentially having your vehicle seized, finding out your insurance is void, is an experience nobody needs. And it is entirely preventable. That is everything you need to know about the DVLA's new rules for drivers over 60 and what the police can now check when they stop you. If you found this useful, please share it with someone you know who is in this age group, because most people have no idea these rules apply to them, or how strictly they are now being enforced. Knowledge is the only protection here, and the more people who have it, the safer our roads become for everyone. If you have questions, or if there is a specific rule or medical condition you would like us to cover in more detail, drop it in the comments below. We read everything, and we do our best to answer. And if you want to stay ahead of changes like this one, subscribe to my channel. New videos go up regularly, and every single one is designed to give you the information you actually need, clearly, without the jargon. Hit subscribe now so you never miss one. Thank you for watching. Drive safe, and we will see you in the next video.